My eyes are tired and I don't have my reading glasses, so. Ordinance 2025-1, Chapter 172, Vehicles and Traffic, Article 3 and 4. I'm making a motion to approve adoption of Ordinance 2025-1, amending Article 3 and 4 of Chapter 172, Vehicles and Traffic, making comprehensive revisions to parking regulations and metered parking, parking payment zones, and borough-operated parking lots.
All in favor?
No, second.
Well, if we say we're going to sit back and ask to be tabled.
Yeah, hold on. Let me interject here. So there was a motion. We need a second.
Yes.
And I know that there was some discussion about possibly somebody making an intervening motion, which would be to table, which they can do after the motion's been made. So just the second doesn't mean anything passes.
Yep.
It just allows us to proceed forward.
Second.
Thank you.
I have a motion and a second. Whether any comments or questions?
Yes, I have.
Yes, Councilor Britta.
Yes, I would like to amend this and, I guess not amend it, but I would like to table it. And I would like to table it specifically because I think that there are residents who clearly feel they've not been heard. And I think we owe it to them to have a meeting with Cedar Street and perhaps with Cedar Street. You know, they live here. This is critically important to them. So that's my reason for tabling it.
Thank you, Councilor. Second it. Can I make a comment?
Councilor Lewis.
Yeah.
My only question is, whether we are tabling this indefinitely, or, in other words, are we agreeing that there will be a meeting to allow people the opportunity? Because if not, there could just be meeting after meeting and nothing. We need to come to a decision at some point. It doesn't have to be tonight. That's all I'm saying, but that's the clarification I would like.
And that's my point as well.
Well, we're going to go in order here. Yeah, that would be the process.
Yeah. So, Mr. Lewis, I'm glad you asked that, because one of the things I would ask as your solicitor is when somebody makes the motion to table, I want clarity as to when they would like to table it to, because what I would need from you is at the date that it is tabled to, I will need you to motion again to advertise this. As you know, as an ordinance, we have a legal obligation to put this in a newspaper, which we have done for tonight. We have to advertise it one time. We've met that requirement. We've done what you've asked. If you motion to table, as a staff, we don't know what you want us to do. So I would have you list it again for an agenda item to motion to advertise. So I would just want that clarity. Sorry, Mr. President.
No, thank you. I appreciate the explanation. Councilor Mitchell.
I think my question goes away. I was going to ask if we could modify, but we still have to advertise.
No.
And if we modify.
No.
That's what I wanted to comment on. I was going to ask permission from
Yeah.
Jay to speak.
So if I can answer that in anticipation. So the Borough Code does allow you to modify an ordinance that is before you vote. Meaning if somebody would like to amend the ordinance that's before you, you can certainly do that. Council then can vote on it. The Borough Code would then require that within 10 days of tonight's meeting, we would have to advertise a legal ad explaining what it is that you did, which is you adopted this ordinance and that ordinance included an amendment. And we would have to, and if we do that, we've met the requirements. So you theoretically could also just amend the ordinance tonight and then adopt it the same night as well.
Shank, did you have anything else, Manager?
Yeah, I did want to add that I took the liberty of having the solicitor draw up an ordinance change like that in case council decided to do that, because I know it's important to get the rest of the ordinance in place. And if you wanted to revise on these two streets, Patrick has, the solicitor has drawn up the ad and notification to amend what we've already advertised. So we are prepared to do that.
I don't understand what you're saying.
So the manager had advised me that there may be some desire by certain council members to possibly amend the ordinance with regard to the parking payment the street sides that would be subject to the parking payment, essentially trying to better mirror what is currently in the ordinance in this new proposed ordinance as it relates to Cedar Street. Additionally, I had discussed with the manager that there is language in the current ordinance, which oddly enough goes to the contract issue that was raised, that was not in or omitted in this draft. Specifically, your current ordinance states that any parking permits that are issued is not a guarantee of any parking where it's located. That language actually does not exist in this draft. It was dropped or omitted for reasons I don't know, but I discovered it. And when we were talking about other revisions, so if council were to move forward tonight, I would recommend to you as your solicitor that you reinsert that language so that it mirrors what's currently there, because it again goes directly to the point of what you would raise, Mr. Lewis, which is there's never a guarantee that even when you get a parking permit that you are entitled to or you are going to have a parking space, whether it's in front of your house or anywhere on the street.
Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Yes, Councilor Bruno.
Since I was the one that, am I supposed to be the one that's the timeline, since I was the one that brought up the idea of tabling it?
So whoever makes the motion is who I would ask to
Okay, so
do
read
that.
the motion to table it. And what I would request is that we table it until next month's meeting, and that within that month, whoever, certainly the ward leaders and any other council members have one meeting with the residents. And I believe as Councilor Danko said earlier, we may end up with the same decision, but at least we will hopefully give you a voice and a time where you could express everything you've already expressed, but in a meeting that is just yours. I personally think we owe that to them. The parking issue has been forever. We could let it go for one more month.
I just want to can I just make one comment? I just want to acknowledge that we had these meetings. I sat there and to hear over and over again that I did think, and you're shaking your head at me, to be acting like I am underhanded and I was doing things in secrecy it feels like I can't hear people say thank you for your time. When I volunteer my time, I show up at these meetings to talk about the parking. There are parking workshops for give and take. People didn't show up. And this is my statement. This is my statement. So my great concern is we table this again. We pause it again. We have a meeting and no one shows up. And then we go to vote on it and people say, well, I didn't go to the meeting. I didn't know about it. It didn't impact me. It had nothing to do with me. What guarantee do we have that we're going to have a workshop like that? And then it goes back.
So what I want to say, I do hope to. Public comment is over. Public comment is over. Public comment is over. One of the things I share my colleagues' concerns. We can table this and we can have a meeting. Things might stay the same, maybe they'll change, but what I'm hearing from the residents is you don't change. You don't want any kind of change. So how can we table something, have a meeting when nobody wants change?
Yeah, we have to leave it.
What I would think,
We're just kicking the can down the road.
no, and I hear you both of you, and because my sentiments, or what everyone here has said, but what I'd like to sit down with everyone is to sit back and to listen to the entire ordinance, to hear the pluses and the minuses, and I think the pluses outweigh any minuses. And I respect that what was said, that I didn't think I had a problem, that's why I didn't show up. And I respect that point, and only for that point. But the chief, Councilor Soltesiak, all of council, we were here for the public meetings. We called a public meeting. It was made public. But we are willing, because we're a community that frankly has just gone through a big trauma. that I feel that, okay, we'll meet one more time to sit back and talk into detail, lay it all out, and think.
So yes, it's, can I go to Councilor McCaffrey, then I'll come.
I just want to give another side that, like, there's a difference of being talked at and talked with. I don't think another meeting is going to hurt. I think it would be better way where we can talk with rather than at. Yes, which is different else. And it is complicated. So it is hard to follow different streets, different traffic, but we did go through it, and there's no harm in doing it again.
Thank you. Anytime. Councilor Ballard.
If I could follow up on something that, it's just a small bit of the ordinance that is under dispute and to the table. And I'm hoping we can do it. Chief Scott said that we need to move on these things and get them in place so that the easement is teenage for enforcement. So can we just kind of draw a black line through certain parts of Cedar Street and certain parts in relevant parts of Main Street and move and pass the rest of the ordinance?
So, the short answer to your question is he's asking whether or not they could amend in order to eliminate some of the concerns that are raised by the residents on Cedar Street, presumably with regard to the park mobile signage and paid parking sections. And my answer to that would be yes. As I mentioned before, you were certainly free to amend the draft as you see fit. I think the difficulty, just so council would be aware, is as I've heard the residents, and I'm not speaking on their behalf, nor am I speaking on behalf of any policy, their concerns are twofold. It sounds like they do not want any paid parking on their street, and they want their street to remain permit parking only, but I also permits that are being issued. That on this, it would be very difficult to craft an exception that on this street there is an unlimited number of permits to be issued, as opposed to the ordinance as proposed makes it very clear you're entitled to 2 resident parking permits and 1 guest parking permit, depending on the availability. So the only thing I would warn you is that I think you could probably address the paid parking portion, but I don't know you could necessarily address the other portion, which is the permit parking side.
Could we move forward with the permit limitations and perhaps that'll come up later and we'll have to again. But eliminate the park mobile aspect of the relevant parts of Cedar and the relevant parts of Leadham, and otherwise move the ordinance forward.
Yes.
I'd like to check with Manager Locke, because Manager Locke, does that capture what you and Solicitor Hitchens talked about?
Yes.
Was there anything else was involved?
No, just the 3-hour park mobile and leaving this what we had discussed was leaving the same thing now. Leaving that the same. It's one option that we had discussed. And then the fact that we did not include in the ordinance the verbiage that said you are not guaranteed a parking spot with a parking permit. It was in our old ordinance. It's not in the new. So that included that as well.
Okay. So there are several motions.
Yeah, so procedurally, Mr. President, there's been a motion to table, so I think you have to ask whether or not there's any seconds to the motion to table.
Second.
And if there's a second to the motion to table, which there has been, then you would take a vote, and a majority vote would decide whether or not it would be tabled in accordance with what Councilor Bruno had.
So we need to first say how long it's being tabled for. Doesn't have to be shine.
No, she stated.
So, but on what date?
It would be
this meet, so we're going to have not a separate I thought you said that there had to be a separate parking desk like we had back in November.
No, let me,
I'm tabling the vote to our next council meeting, which is in a month from now.
So we'll have a parking workshop as a part of the
No, just a
subcommittee meeting.
We'll have a separate.
Okay.
That's not in the motion. That's a.
no, so as I understand the motion correct, until the next meeting. During that month period, it is anticipated that some folks on council will have a meeting with residents about it. This may not be a formal meeting of the quorum of council. It may just be certain council members who will meet with the residents, and then they will come back. And again, at that meeting, that's what I will ask you to motion to advertise, to direct us to advertise this ordinance again. So you would be so you'd be looking at an adoption date. March, you'd be looking at an adoption date of April.
But we could, I'm sorry, we could, if we have a quorum of council, we could vote to advertise at our committee meeting.
Correct.
Still wouldn't give enough time though for the next week.
It wouldn't though. No, I would suggest you stick with the month timeline to keep that consistent. We could theoretically advertise for your workshop meeting in April if you wanted to, rather than your business meeting in April, but that would be up for you to decide in March, not tonight. You do not need to decide that tonight.
So now we're talking about just
protest on public comment is over.
Like with this gentleman, can we just, change it and get Cedar's?
Councilman Violet.
So when we do that, we table that takes the entire ordinance.
Correct. You would have adopted nothing tonight. All you would have done is to table the entire ordinance to March.
So we have to say no to the tabling if we wanted to amend.
Correct.
Correct. Yes, Councilor Pecca.
So what David was suggesting is that we, on page 4 of the proposed ordinance, and I will admit that I have a January 28th version, so it might not be the most latest. But on page 4, we would change the part that describes where parking permit only zones and then the 3-hour parking. We would eliminate the 400 block of Cedar Street from that chart. And the 400 block of Hemp Street from that chart. Yes. And then we could proceed with the, David, is that what and we would add the language that Manager Locke and our solicitor have suggested, that this does not guarantee parking for any permit holder.
Just getting rid of parking.
But Justin,
On the other parts, yeah.
so
Just the 400 block of Cedar and the 400 block of Leadham.
that would be very legal to do, to just do it, I guess. I mean, that seems wild.
I'm waiting for our solicitor.
Okay.
I don't have the answer.
I know that seems crazy, but okay.
So what, again, we have a motion to table and there is a second, so you need to take that vote first. But in response to, in response to your question, Ms. Panko, yes, you could amend the ordinance in order to, I have it up on my screen, eliminate the Cedar Street reference between West Avenue to Hillside Avenue, both sides for 3-hour parking.
Wait a minute, where are you? It says between 400 Cedar and Hillside. Is that?
Oh, are you under the 10-hour parking? I thought you said 3-hour parking.
It's 172-25.
So you don't want to do that because that is the permit parking area. You would want to look to the parking payment zone, which is section 172-34.
So you're really
The hour is late,
Yes.
so why don't I address the motion to table? So we have a motion to table and a second. All those in favor?
Bye.
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Chief Scott said that, a lot of stuff needs to be done. We're holding up the whole shebang, most of which is
Yeah.
fine.
That's right. Well, as I mentioned, the hour was late and it's, no, I don't mean it like that, like I want to go home. I mean, we're still talking about a lot of things and there seems to be a lot of confusion. So I'm going with Councilor Bruno's suggestion that we table and then we have that, there's a meeting between the residents and members of the council. I can't say all members of the council, just to make sure we're voting, we're all can find common ground. That's all I'm saying. I'm not trying to go home.
Yeah, I think if we then the same.
I agree with David.
So,
Did just vote.
Mr. President, I would say you did just vote, and there was, as I heard, a majority to table, because I believe it was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
I can't say that.
You can't, because you already voted 6, 7, 8.
Can I ask a question about timing?
Yeah.
Okay, if there were a quorum, of counselors that met with the group within a week, could we then,
So
like vote to change?
So if a quorum of council meets with the residents, please be,
Wait, let me just, what I'm trying to get at, is there any way that we could do this process so that we can vote on the entire ordinance next month?
so if you wanted it advertised for March, you would likely need to call a special meeting between now and probably 2 weeks before your regular business meeting, so as to ensure that the legal advertisement can go in 7 days prior to your regular business meeting. And the reason you have to give us that much lead time is that the newspaper requires us to submit it so far in advance in order to make it to a certain date.
Because my intent is to vote, to be able to just have this conversation, but be able to vote in the March meeting. That's the intent
Okay.
of my tabling it. So,
But we would be voting to advertise unless we make no change at all.
No, presumably at that special meeting is when you would direct me what it is you want advertised.
And I think if we spend 20 more minutes, we can hammer out the understanding that way.
You just take
No.
So
Because we're trying to hammer it out.
No, you're.
so can we back down to that table?
It's not time to hammer it out. We should still have more on the agenda.
Yes.
So what I'm going to suggest is, if the president would like to direct staff to schedule a special meeting, I believe that under the Borough Code, the president has the right to direct special meeting to be scheduled. We can schedule that special meeting and you guys can meet at that special meeting, and at that meeting, at the agenda, we can list the agenda and that can allow you an action item to make a direction as to what it is you'd like us to do. Does that make sense?
Yes, that makes sense as far as advertising.
As far as advertising, and you do not need to vote on that because the president can direct or call that special meeting be held. You just have to tell us to do
It would
that.
have to be the second week of March, right, Patrick? To get the ad in.
Yeah, we would advise you, I don't know sitting right now, like when the exact, but we would advise you when you need to hold that meeting.
Okay. So that will be my direction.
Okay. Staff will work to schedule a special meeting, which will be advertised and agenda published. It will probably be here in this Borough Hall as it always is. The advertisement is in the same newspaper that it always goes in. So, Mr. Lockwood, newspaper does it go in?
I can't think. It's just
The Intelligencer?
intelligentsia, yeah, thank you.
The Intelligencer.
Councilor Lewis, you had something?
Yes, the one request I would make to people who plan to attend the meeting is that to make the best use of everyone's time, it would be a good idea to come with solutions, possible solutions, because simply complaining is not productive. We know that there's limited parking here. We know that there are parking issues. So let's all try to work together to come up with solutions. Now, not every solution is going to work, but I think if we're trying to solve problems instead of identifying them, we'll get a lot further and a lot faster.
Can I ask you a question?
Sure.
Sure. Okay. So why was it shifted there? We don't know. Why did you want to make Cedar,
So
like envy or whatever?
if I can interject there and suggest, that's a good question to ask at the special meeting or whatever the thing is, but
My question is, if we know why you want to do that, then we might be able to bring solutions.
I think it's clear we've heard you. I think it's clear and all, I mean,
No, I'm
I
with,
think it's, we would like to have a meeting where, as my Sam and Kathy said, well, we're not talking at each other, we're talking to each other. So I think that's what everybody in agreement, that's.
my question was, what are we trying to solve?
Oh, yeah, and we'll talk about that. I mean, I think I was pretty lenient by allowing more public comment, but